We are gathered here today to mourn the passing and to celebrate the life of... He was not a great man. He was not a good man. He was kind of a jerk. But he was a man, and that has to count for something.
A man!
And we shall never forget when he did a review of Dread. Well, most of it. He died around the middle. But he came back to finish it by the grace of a crow. And he valiantly fought off that zombie onslaught to save himself. But valiantly. Then the zombies tore him into more pieces than a shredded jigsaw. But by King Torg!
All hail King Torg!
He gave one Tartarus of a eulogy. So, we commend his spirit unto the red hands of RAWR, and his body unto whoever is hungry.
You know, that was a good eulogy. All those who are in favor of coming back to life, say aye.
Aye. Nay.
Wow, you guys really want me back to life? That's great. I thought I was going to have to spend a fortune on white makeup.
Well, time for the after party.
Can I come?
No, it's your funeral.
Oh, what is the malted liquor? What gets you drunker quicker? What comes in bottles or in cans?
Beer!
Can't get enough of it.
Beer!
How we really love it.
Beer!
Makes me think I'm a man.
Beer!
I could kiss and hug it,
Beer!
but I'd rather chug it.
Beer!
Got my belly out to here.
Beer!
I could not refuse it.
Beer!
I could really use a beer. Beer, beer.
Hey guys! Well, since I'm alive again, does anyone want to play a game? Have some fun?
I don't think that we are in any
Condition?
condensation
Constipation!
stay to play anything.
Don't worry. I have a game for just such a situation. It's called Kobolds Ate My Baby.
Roast them alive, or stew them in a pot. Fry them, boil them, eat them hot. Bake and toast them, fry and roast.
Kobolds are essentially a Germanic gnome. Or at least they used to be before the Dungeons and Dragons people got a hold of them. You see, in those early days, the old school gamers needed lots and lots and lots of stuff to kill. It wasn't enough to fight a new and interesting monster every time they turned around. They needed hordes of sapient creatures to slaughter, even at the low levels. And so, the following conversation was had.
People are tired of fighting orcs and goblins. What in the name of J.R.R. Tolkien are we going to do? Low-level lizard folk? Yes, it's brilliant. But what are we going to call them? Kobolds? It's a great idea. Wait, you do realize kobolds are entirely different. So, who's gonna notice the difference?
Since then, kobolds have been lizard folk, rats with candles on their head, monkey creatures, dog-headed gorillas, dog-like creatures, earth spirits, the list goes on. And the only things they really have in common is that, like their folkloric predecessor, most are associated with the earth and live in underground tunnels. And, like their D&D predecessor, most can be slaughtered by a very low-level adventurer. This leaves one wondering how a species that is this easily wiped out by semi-competent adventurers has possibly survived this long. And even more, why on Midgard they insist on swarming these same adventurers when they know full well they're going to die. Kobolds Ate My Baby attempts to answer this question with a resounding, because they're stupid! In this game, players play kobolds, trying to eat babies. Well, and chickens and other kobolds and snakes and snails into hamburgers and Basically anything they can fit into their mouth, up to and including rocks. Needless to say, players are not expected to do anything intelligent because, well, a kobold wouldn't. In fact, during kobold construction, you are specifically required to not think too hard about what you're doing. This is fairly easy for most of it since it's all random. You roll 2d6 to determine all of your stats, which in turn determines your handy number. You roll 2d6 to determine what equipment you get, several times. If you get a spell, you roll 2d6 to determine what spell you get. The only thing you pick are your skills. This is designed to make character creation very fast, but considering the rate of kobold death, it's not fast enough. Despite the kobold's natural fragility, and let's face it, these guys have a tough time killing a chicken, let alone a human being. And God forbid you need to fight a cow. The kobolds also have to contend with the kobold horrible death check. You get a check whenever you do something insanely stupid, and kobolds will, whenever you anger RAWR, or whenever you fail King Torg.
All hail King Torg!
And perhaps most noticeably, whenever you fail a skill check, regardless of the situation.
I smashed the kobold corpse with my shoe!
Okay, make a roll. And that's a failure. And kobold horrible death check? Polar bear!
What?
As if these highly amusing kobold horrible deaths weren't enough, they also gave us baby horrible deaths to satisfy those truly psychotic urges you have. Basically, whenever a kobold does something stupid or dangerous with a baby, like,
"See you later, alligator. Have to run, crocodile."
yes, these are just as horrible and amusing as the kobold horrible deaths. In order to perform any action, a kobold needs to roll a certain number of d6s. Yes, it only uses d6s! Under their relevant attribute. Note that since you can have an attribute at 2, and can sometimes need to roll 3d6, lots of actions can often be, quite literally, impossible. We come to one of the main problems that the game has. It's too hard to do anything. Since your random stats are just determined by 2d6 and you're very often required to roll more than that, it's very hard to get a lot of actions to even work in the first place. This makes the game very frustrating. The rules are simple, but let's face it, having to figure out how many dice you're rolling is actually a step up in complexity over rolling 1d20 and adding something to it. The game does have other upsides in addition to the horrible death charts. One is that the Super Deluxe Edition is actually a really nice, though still very cheap hardcover with great artwork by John Kovalik, the guy behind Dork Towers and also an artist for Munchkit. It also has plenty of good random tables so you never have to think about what you're doing, and a few advancement options if you're really insane enough to try and play this game long term. Really, it's worth buying just for the read. It's got very good writing, very funny stuff in here all about the kobold. And while it doesn't play quite as nicely as I'd like, it's still worth the $13 it cost. Overall, I think the game suffers from having rules slightly more complicated than what it really wants to have going on. Still, fun read, cheap book, well worth getting your hands on if you can find a copy. And just look how cute and cuddly these kobolds are. They're like... Wait a minute.
Don't you mean dingoes?
No.
Where were you?
We have pretzels?